Hey, hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this Azure DevOps tutorial series, today let's discuss about what is resource group in Azure. Okay, so resource group is a important terminology that is widely used across the Azure world. Alright, the reason why it is important in the Azure DevOps world is because you ideally use all these kind of resources and resource groups for deployment and other purposes whenever you are working with YAML files and other kind of deployments. Alright, so that is why it is necessary for us to understand what resource group is and what are the benefits of using resource group. Alright, to before starting I will put a disclaimer because as I said earlier, I do not have an active subscription at this moment. I will try to get one in the future, but as of now I have tried to show whatever possible I can from the Azure portal, and few screenshots I have captured and few notes I have taken. So based on that information I will try to give you as much inputs as possible so that you understand how to use these resource groups in your regular day-to-day works. Alright, so I am at portal.azure.com. so once you go in, you can see, you can search for the resource group Azure services, or you can select one from here. Okay, before going to resource group, what is a resource? Okay, resource are different services that are present inside Azure DevOps, Azure actually I should say. So for example, like storage account, virtual machines, app services. If I click on more services, you can see quite a lot of Azure resources that is present. Alright, let's see a few widely used like Data Factory, Azure Synapse, and what else? You can see some databases like you can see few containers which involves Kubernetes. You can see databases like Azure Cosmos, Azure SQL Server, SQL database, and so on. Okay, so these and all are the resources. So why do we need a resource group is the next question. Okay, a resource group is a container or a folder kind of structure that holds related resource for an Azure solution. Alright, so the resource group can include all the resources for the solution or only those resources that you want to manage as a group. Okay, you decide how to allocate resources to your resource group based on what makes the what makes more sense for your organization or your project. Alright, so for example, if I'm working in a development, if I'm working on a development of e-commerce website, ideally you will use Azure App Services, you will use Azure storage accounts, and Azure SQL databases, and many more. Okay, so you group all the logical entries that you want for your project and into a single resource group, and there are quite a lot of benefits out of that come out of it. Okay, let's discuss all those things one by one. Okay, so how do we create a resource group? As I said, I don't have an active subscription. As soon as I create a resource group, it will go to my resource group page to activate my subscription, which I do not have at this moment. Instead, I have grabbed a screenshot from the Azure portal, which might give you a better understanding of the UI that is present for creation of resource group. Okay, so if you go here, if you go to the resource groups page, you can click on the create icon here, create button, and once you click that, you can see there is a resource group page that you can see. So here you provide your active subscription and your resource group name, okay, which should be very meaningful for your organization, and important thing is the region or the location. You should select the ideal region what is required for your resource group. Ideally, the best practice is you usually want to create a same region as your other resources. Okay, it is not mandatory, but that is a best practice. You should actually try to create a region which is most widely used across your resources. Okay, so once you provide these details and click on review and create, you can see your resource group will get created, and that particular resource group will get will show here. So once you go into that resource group, you can add ideal resources that you want to store inside a particular group. Okay, in particular resource group. All right, so let's see what are the benefits and what are key points of resource groups and why do you actually need it. Okay, so I have taken few key notes here which actually helps us understand why we need a resource group. Okay, so first main part is, as I said, logical grouping and simplified management. Okay, Azure resource groups allows you to logically organize related resources. For example, let's say you need a VM, you need a database, you need a web app, etc. for easier management. So you group all these things which are required for a project under a single resource group for easier management. So that's one of the main reason. So, and the second thing is you can view, update, delete, tag all resources in a group from one place, which will be ideal for organizing your resources. For example, if you want to organize it based on environment, okay, let's say dev, test, QA or production, so you can differentiate your environments based on the resource group, and you can differentiate based on department like HR, finance, IT, etc., or based on different projects. Okay, you can call it as project A or project B. So based on the logical grouping, you can put all your resources inside a resource group. Okay, what are the key benefits out of it is you can easily monitor via the Azure portal. In the Azure portal, as I said, you can see that resources listed inside your resource group, which will actually be easy for your monitoring. Okay, you can also create it via CLI, but that is not a scope for our that's not in scope for this video. Let's focus on UA only. Alright, and next you can have a centralized alerts and diagnostics and quick access to all resources for a single solution. Okay, that's the key and first important benefit of Azure resource group. Next thing is the management boundary or access control. Okay, this gives Azure a major control over the resources that you are handling. Okay, so Azure uses RBAC, which is a role based access control to manage who can access what. Okay, so under a resource group or under resource group, you can actually provide that role based access, which gives control. Okay, which gives control over who want to access and what. Okay, access can be assigned at the resource group level rather than individual resources as well. Okay, that's one of the main reasons of Azure resource. Okay, and you can provide roles like reader, contributor, owner, and so on, which will actually help you to keep control of the Azure resources. All right, so what are the key benefits is it has a fine-grained security and simplified permission management and fewer mistakes due to isolated access. Okay, so these are the key points and which comes under access control. All right, and next we have is something called deployment scope, automation, and templates. Okay, for example, resource groups are used as the deployment scope for tools like ARM templates, Bicep, Terraform, Azure CLI, PowerShell. Okay, entire infrastructures like it can be either infrastructure as a service or platform as a service can be provisioned consistently using templates. Okay, what are the key benefits in this point? Okay, the as infrastructure as a code support, consistent and repeatable deployments, and easy version control and rollback. Okay, so that's the key benefit of having a resource group from a deployment scope point of view. And next one is the region or location. Okay, you must specify a region when creating a resource group, which we saw in the screenshot earlier, right? So this does not restrict where resources inside can reside. You can have resources in different locations when compared to resource group. The location is used to at the resource group level. The location is used for storing metadata, control plane logs, and deployment history only. Okay, one of the key important thing to notice, if the region of the resource group is down, management operations might be impacted, but not the runtime of the resources in other region. Okay, this is something important to note. And then place the resource group in the same region as most of the resource for performance and resilience. As I said earlier, as a best practices, you ideally want to create a resource group in the same region that is actually present in other resources. All right, and then we have something called resource life cycle. Okay, resource life cycle is nothing but resource groups helps you manage the life cycle of a resources together. Okay, when you delete resource group, all the resources inside are deleted. Okay, support life cycle operations like grouped start or stop of VMs or coordinated updates. So these kind of resource operations can be performed easily using Azure resource groups. All right, and key benefits of it are clean decommission of environment, easy cleanup of your dev, test or production resources, and faster environment replication. All right, and finally we have something called cost tracking and billing. Okay, Azure provides cost visibility at the resource group level also. Okay, at the resource group level you can easily track what actually cost more, what actually cost less, etc. Okay, you can track spending per environment, project or a team. Okay, for example, tags like cost center like marketing or environment equal to production can be applied for detailed cost analysis and all. Okay, the key benefits of this is budget enforcement and cost accountability, and it also helps in chargebacks or internal billing, integrates with Azure cost management and billing APIs. Okay, so these are the key points that why we need Azure resource group. All right, so let's see a real world example. Okay, let's see a real world example when of an online supermarket application. Okay, so imagine you are building a online supermarket platform. In those situations, you can structure your resource group something like this. You can name your resource group something meaningful. As a best practice, usually people use RG at the beginning or at the end to actually identify it is a resource group. Okay, so here this is a supermarket for dev region. So I'm giving this particular name. So what resides under this resource group are, now we have Azure App Services for front end. We have Azure SQL databases for orders. We have Azure Storage Account for product images. We have Azure Key Vault for secrets. We have Azure App Insights for monitoring, and so on. Okay, you can have any number of resources which are meaningful under your resource group. Similarly, the same thing will apply for a production resource group also. All right. So this way, okay, you can easily manage all your resource within a resource group, which will be very, very handy. You will be using this particular terminology in your day-to-day work in your Azure world. Okay, why I am covering this in resource in Azure DevOps playlist? Because during deployments and all, okay, you ideally deploy things in using resource groups. All right, so that is one of the reason why we need to understand this particular topic. Okay, I hope you found this topic interesting and useful. In case if you have any queries, let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, please subscribe and follow my channel. Thank you.